folks. We are in the throes of it. Top story today, Dow, getting crushed. The bulls are in full retreat mode. There is no end in sight as far as I could see it right now. I know many times when we have big volatility in the market like this, I say stay calm, you'll be fine, you're invested for the long term. We're not fine right now. Don't do anything rash right now. But as I've been telling you since last week, as the fear, fright, and hysteria continues to be fomented by the left-wing media on this, the markets are under siege. I have periodically floated a conspiracy theory that China actually allowed this Wuhan virus to get out there, and it's an act of biological warfare against us. Oh, Trump, you want to give us tariffs? Okay, we give you some Wuhan. And they've basically paralyzed the global markets. Capital markets here in the U.S. are... I'm on the phone this morning. I'm outside the New York Stock Exchange talking to my guys like Bobby Ars and Mario, and they tell me that sellers are selling with two hands, and you got to step back, relax. The one thing great about our American capitalist system is we still have human beings down there who've been dealing with stuff like this for the last 50 years. So you're in good hands on the New York Stock Exchange. They got things under control. They've dealt with this before. So stay put. And if you remember last week, I said if we close below 25 on Friday, we could be looking at a Black Monday situation. Unfortunately, I was right. We came in on Monday down big, almost 2,000 points. And we had on Chris Markowski, the watchdog for Wall Street, on Monday. And Chris thought maybe there might be a buying opportunity around 22,000, where I thought the next stop would be. And I said, hold up on that thought. Here's what I said to Chris on Monday. This chart, and I'll tell you why I'm saying I don't think it's the buying opportunity yet. It could be. It could be. But we got that chart? Okay. So if you take a look, the green dot on the side there is the 24,000 and change, right about where we are now. That white line is going back to July of 19, where we're at about 22.5. To me, that's the next place where we got to catch some support. So there could be a trap door here from 22.4 all the way down to as low as 22,000. And if it closes sometime this week, or especially worst case on Friday, then to me, it's another trap door, because there's no support in there, Chris. And I think, you know, the real opportunity, if it happens, could be where you see that final white line around 18,000. So keep your seatbelts on, folks. Apply the oxygen mask to yourself before trying to care for anyone else. Sit tight. And Monday may be the day where you come in and you got all the cash you could scrape up, and there should be some generational buying opportunities in real big blue chip names that are on a significant sale. We'll keep you posted on the markets as we speak. Up 1,000 off the lows of the day. So there's some value buyers out there sticking some bids in, but we've been seeing a tremendous torrent of selling as we get to the end of the day. No one wants to go home long because they don't know what the story is going to be tomorrow. And as I've told you for the last 9 months, the markets can handle everything. The one thing they can't handle is uncertainty. And the way this whole thing is going right now, there is no certainty on what next area will be affected. So stand clear of the falling knife, my friends. And now for our top story today, a great friend of mine and Frankie's, Roger Stone, I believe was unfairly and maliciously prosecuted for being friends with the President of the United States. We've documented it many times. We've had Roger on the show before he was gagged. First person I can remember in history that had his First Amendment rights taken away from him, but yet the jury forewoman and everybody else involved with the case can go out there and put out all kinds of propaganda. And, you know, when I heard about the chairwoman, the jury chairwoman, that she was actually tweeting anti-Trump stuff while she was overseeing the case, I looked at my partner, Frank Morano, and I said, where did Roger get these attorneys? How could they not have figured out this base stuff in voir dire that she had this background? And you know what? He doesn't represent Roger, but he knows the case as good as anyone. He's a great friend of the show. David Schoen joins us right now, criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney. And I know, David, you are closely watching this thing, but I got to ask you right off the top here, how the heck do his attorneys not do a simple Google search on the woman who becomes the chairperson of the jury? How does that happen?
Well, you're following the case closely, too, because they acknowledged that they didn't do that Google search. And that's one of the things that they were faulted for. But listen, this issue is one that ought to really trouble everybody in the country. What you have when you have a jury member like this, especially a foreperson, doing what we now know she did. And by the way, I don't know that we've scratched the surface in terms of what she's done with social media and all that. The judge really sort of cut that off. We know what a journalist found she did. But in any event, what that is potentially ignoring the judge's instructions in the case, deceiving the lawyers in the case, maybe bringing an extraneous influence into the jury, all of which are actionable and should lead to a new trial in a case. Did she influence the other jurors? Was she influenced? Remember, this was social media. As the judge said for Roger Stone, this is very telling, I think. The judge said that Roger Stone didn't just try to make a point. He intentionally used social media to get the broadest message out there that he could. Well, that's what this juror did. This juror used social media. Social media, as you well know, is interactive. What were the responses she got? We now know that many of the posts have disappeared. This is a very troubling thing. But you really encapsulated it when you said, is there been never been another case in which the defendant had his First Amendment rights taken away, but the jurors can tweet about the case, and the judge doesn't seem concerned about it all. You're right, the lawyers are to blame to some degree for not doing their homework, but you shouldn't have to investigate every juror, frankly. You should be able to expect them to follow their oath and to be truthful.
So just let me get this straight, because I'm not an attorney, although I play one on TV sometimes. Isn't there like a little questionnaire? Like, can you be biased? Do you think you can be fair? Do you have any bias against either of the... Isn't there a little questionnaire where they have to check a box?
Right. And so in this case, there was a serious questionnaire process. Prospective jurors were brought in for the day. They were given the questionnaire. And what was explained to them, you can be sure, is what we're trying to get at here is determine if anybody has any preconceived ideas about the president because he's an associate with Roger Stone, or about Roger Stone, or politically. So, you know, it's a mixed bag. Some of the things in that questionnaire certainly should have triggered the lawyers to ask more questions, and their questioning was abysmal in voir dire. However, on the other hand, you know, the juror should have been more forthcoming in her questionnaire.
Well, are these... for some reason, and I'm probably going to jinx myself now, but I've never been called for jury duty. Okay, so I don't know how this works, right? But is that a sworn affidavit? Like when you check those boxes?
Yes.
It's a sworn affidavit.
When the juror comes in, that whole process is now under oath.
That's what I'm saying.
The questionnaire,
so
yes.
Technically, she committed perjury.
Yeah.
By checking a box that said, I can be fair. I'm not biased in any way.
Well, that certainly seems to be playing out that way. You know, that's an abstract concept. Could, in her mind, maybe she's fair. But if she intentionally said something that wasn't true or omitted something she understood she had a duty to reveal, then yes, that could be a crime.
And what if we can get what if Roger's team, whoever they may be representing them, I know it's not you, but hypothetically, if it were you, could we bring a civil action against this lady, which gets some discovery, and then if her emails to her friends are like, I got this guy right where I want him, then we know she had bad intentions.
Right. As a juror, she's probably going to, get off with immunity. However, Roger Stone has a number of tools available, and part of his presentation in new trial motion, which unfortunately was filed under seal, but if I were the lawyer in that case, I would demand a great deal of discovery. And if the judge doesn't grant it, at least I've got my record. We need to know a whole lot more than we know. Were there other tweets? What's the whole universe of social media she uses? What's her internet search history? What's her interaction history? All of those things. And there should be a motion in there to preserve it because there's a window of opportunity with Facebook. Facebook now allows archiving, but if you opt into it. But there's a window of opportunity, 30 days, some experts say, to preserve that stuff. It has to be preserved.
You know, one of my good buddies recently retired from law enforcement, and he was in the cyber unit. And he was telling me that most police departments, even local police departments, they have some monitoring program where they actually screenshot Facebook periodically, like, X amount of times per hour. So even when Facebook takes stuff off, the law enforcement community has a way to go back and have a picture of what you put on that day. So maybe there's some hope there.
That's right.
But let me ask you this. My buddy Lee Armstrong, managing partner of New York here for Jones Day, very, very, probably the greatest trial lawyer I've known on the business side. And I said, well, Roger's got to get he's got to get a new trial. And he said, you know, you would think that, JT, but it's just not that easy. The judge does not really have to consider her state of mind when she signed that. What are his chances on appeal here?
Well, on appeal, I think his chances are strong. But with this judge, remember, this judge right now has under advisement his motion for a new trial. I would expect her to come out with that decision any day. I personally think she's held off so far because she's trying to make it bulletproof. I think she's simply out to get Roger Stone. I mean, and I don't think there's anything it could have said and done to get a new trial. However,
do you think she was biased? Do you think she's biased?
I hate to say
your opinion.
I hate to say it. In my personal opinion, yes. I knew her a bit about her when she was a lawyer. She was a criminal defense lawyer in practice. We had exchanged emails, that sort of thing. Something happened with this case, and it's political, and I'm very concerned about it. It was telling in the things that she said during the course of the sentencing, some of which were completely inaccurate. For example, she said in the sentencing, Roger Stone was prosecuted for covering up for Donald Trump. That's not true, and it's certainly irrelevant to the case, even if it were true, but it's simply not true. That wasn't why he was prosecuted, and there's no evidence of any cover-up of the president. Secondly, she said that because Roger Stone did what he did, he deprived the Nunes committee in the House of information, so they came out with a wrong conclusion on Russia collusion. Also not true. And Nunes has answered that, said, I don't know what you're talking about. I have a 248-page report. Roger Stone maybe is mentioned once. It had nothing to do with our conclusion.
So she actually came out and made past judgment to say, well, what he did caused the wrong ruling to come out of the Mueller report. And she's basically weighing in on the Mueller report now.
Exactly.
So that shows she's biased. I don't know. We're thinking about I've been drinking Corona beer every day to fight off the coronavirus. Maybe we should send a case of Corona over to the judge's chambers in the Rogers case. Maybe a couple beers will calm her down and she'll think about it clearly. But I know you're always here for us. I want to thank you very much. Anything you can do to help our buddy Roger, too, please do. He needs all the help he can get. And I think the one man who could do something about it, he's letting all options play out. But if you ask me, the president, he knows where his loyalties are, and he knows that this guy's been loyal to him. And when you get arrested and get sentenced to 40 months in jail on a piece of evidence, which is the Frank Pantangeli scene in The Godfather, it's a fictional character, and that's one of the key pieces of evidence in your case, it's a pretty flimsy case. But David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here, but don't go anywhere. Dow in rebound mode right now, down 1,400. It was down as much as 2,100 today, so it's off its lows of the day, but still not looking great. Don't dive back in just yet. There's a lot more pain out there, if you ask me, but we are going to soothe that pain next with my favorite part of the show. We mix it up. Josh Kravitz and Jerry Kassar are here. We're going to talk about all the news of the day and what's happening with the Democratic primary, where the field has been thinned out significantly. We're going to take a quick break. More Liquid Lunch right after this.